What if I told you the single most powerful muscle-building compound your body relies on isn't something you scoop out a tub, but something your own kidneys and liver manufacture every single day, using raw materials hiding in plants you probably walked past in the produce aisle 1,000 times? Your body makes creatine, not from creatine itself, but from three amino acids: arginine, glycine, and methionine. Amino acids found across the plant kingdom, in seeds and legumes and ancient grains that fed entire civilizations long before a single scoop of pre-workout powder ever existed. Here's the part almost nobody talks about. Your body produces creatine through a two-step biochemical process, one that begins quietly in the kidneys and finishes in the liver, and every single one of the 20 foods on this list feeds directly into that pathway in a different, specific way. Some supply the raw amino acids. Some supply the mineral cofactors that make the enzymes actually work. Some reduce the inflammation that would otherwise slow the whole system down. By the end of this video, you'll understand not just which foods to eat, but exactly why each one earns its place. And today, I'm going to show you 20 of them. Foods that don't just support creatine production, but that traditional healers from the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia to the highlands of Peru have relied on for generations, long before anyone had a name for the biochemistry involved. Stick around, because number 6 on this list is a humble southern staple that shows up on tables from Texas to the Carolinas every New Year's Day, and it may be one of the most complete creatine-supporting foods in existence, hiding in plain sight inside a dish most people think of purely as tradition rather than performance nutrition. And number 19 is a food the U.S. government once quietly discouraged farmers from growing, dismissed for decades as an agricultural weed, before science proved it was one of the most nutritionally dense seeds on the planet. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, because we post new videos every week connecting cutting-edge nutrition science with the foods your body was actually built to thrive on. Let's get into it. Here are 20 creatine-rich superfoods that will heal you, ranked from remarkable to absolutely extraordinary. Number 1. Walnuts, the brain and muscle nut from Northern California. Let's start with something most Americans already have in the pantry, usually reserved for banana bread instead of the daily fuel it actually is. 99% of the walnuts grown in the United States come from the Central Valley of California, where family orchards have cultivated them for over a century. But walnuts were prized long before California ever planted a single tree. Ancient Persian physicians prescribed walnuts for strength and vitality, and Native American tribes across the Pacific Northwest incorporated walnut relatives into their diets as a dense winter energy source when other food sources ran scarce through the colder months. Modern biochemistry explains why that reputation stuck. Walnuts are a strong plant source of arginine, the amino acid that serves as a primary raw material in your body's creatine synthesis pathway. Here's how that pathway works. Your body produces creatine through a two-step process that begins in the kidneys, where arginine and glycine combine to form a precursor compound called guanidinoacetate. That compound then travels to the liver, where it's converted into creatine. No arginine, no creatine. It's that direct. A 1-ounce serving of walnuts provides close to half a gram of arginine, along with alpha-linolenic acid, the plant omega-3 that helps calm the inflammation that would otherwise interfere with muscle recovery. And unlike most nuts, walnuts also carry a meaningful dose of the antioxidant ellagic acid, which research suggests helps protect muscle cells from the oxidative stress that builds up during intense physical activity. Research published in the Journal of Nutrition has linked regular walnut consumption to improved vascular function, which matters because better blood flow means better delivery of the very amino acids we're discussing to your muscle tissue. Walnuts also contain melatonin and polyphenol that support the quality of deep sleep. And deep sleep happens to be when the bulk of your body's creatine synthesis and muscle repair actually takes place, which means the snack is doing double duty long after you've stopped chewing. Eat a small handful daily, raw or lightly toasted, toss into oatmeal or a salad, or stirred into a bowl of Greek yogurt, the way you'd find on a breakfast table anywhere from Vermont to Oregon. This is not a once-in-a-while food. It's a food your creatine system runs on consistently. Number 2. Tofu, the complete protein most people underestimate. Tofu has an image problem in the West. It's dismissed as bland as a substitute for real protein, as something you eat when you're out of options. That reputation is both inaccurate and nutritionally costly, because tofu is one of the most complete plant protein sources in existence, and it has anchored longevity-associated diets across East Asia for over 2,000 years. In traditional Chinese medicine, tofu was considered a tonifying food, one that supported kidney function and nourished muscle tissue. Tofu is made from soybeans, and soybeans contain all three amino acids your body requires for creatine synthesis: arginine, glycine, and methionine, the exact trio your kidneys and liver need across both steps of the synthesis pathway. This makes tofu one of the few plant foods providing a complete amino acid foundation for the entire creatine pathway in a single serving, meaning you don't have to combine it with anything else on this list to cover your bases. Research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition has shown that soy protein matches animal protein in supporting muscle protein synthesis when consumed in adequate amounts. A half-cup serving of firm tofu provides roughly 10 grams of complete protein, along with calcium, iron, and isoflavones, compounds shown in clinical studies to reduce markers of muscle damage after exercise. The people of Okinawa, Japan, who held the world record for centenarian density for much of the 20th century, consumed tofu daily throughout their lives, and that longevity data is not a coincidence nutritional science has ignored. Press it firm, marinate it deeply, roast it until the edge is crisp, or crumble it into a scrambled way it's served at brunch spots from Brooklyn to Austin. Tofu absorbs whatever flavor you bring to it, and the people who eat it daily are getting something metabolically valuable most Western diets miss entirely. Number 3. Edamame, youth in a pod. There's an old Japanese saying that translates roughly as eat young soybeans to stay young yourself, and in this case the biochemistry actually backs the folklore. Edamame, young soybeans harvested before they harden, have been eaten across East Asia for centuries as both a snack and a therapeutic food. 1 cup of cooked edamame delivers around 17 grams of complete protein, including meaningful arginine, your body's primary creatine precursor, packaged inside a food gentle enough on digestion that has been given to the elderly and to recovering athletes alike across centuries of East Asian tradition. It's also rich in leucine, the branched-chain amino acid that acts as a molecular trigger for muscle protein synthesis, signaling your cells to begin repair after physical stress. A study in the journal Nutrients found leucine-rich plant proteins produce muscle protein synthesis rates comparable to animal protein when total intake was matched. Edamame also provides folate, vitamin K, and iron, nutrients that support oxygen delivery to working muscles, and is remarkably low in calories relative to how much protein it delivers, making it one of the most efficient recovery snacks by volume. Steam it, salt it lightly, and eat it as a daily snack or shell into grain bowls and soups. You'll find it on the appetizer menu of nearly every sushi restaurant from Seattle to Miami, which tells you how far this once regional food has traveled. It's one of the most approachable foods on this list, and one of the easiest to work into any American kitchen. Number 4. Lentils, the fuel of ancient armies. Before protein shakes, before creatine supplements, there were lentils, and they fed soldiers, farmers, and entire civilizations. The armies of ancient Rome relied on lentils as a primary protein source on campaign, and lentil-based diet has sustained the Indian subcontinent across thousands of years of continuous agricultural civilization, feeding laborers who performed physically demanding work day after day without any concept of modern sports nutrition. Today, lentils are a growing crop across the Palouse region of Washington and Idaho, one of the largest lentil-producing areas in the country. Lentils are rich in arginine, a single cooked cup providing roughly 1.3 grams, along with glycine and substantial plant protein overall, giving you 2 to 3 amino acids your kidneys need for that very first synthesis step. They're also exceptional sources of iron, critical for oxygen transport to muscle, and folate, which supports red blood cell production. The fiber in lentils feeds beneficial gut bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids, reducing systemic inflammation, and less inflammation means less muscle damage lingering between training sessions. Research published in the British Journal of Nutrition found regular legume consumption associated with improved muscle mass maintenance in aging adults, independent of total protein intake. Gladiators, whose diets have been studied through isotopic analysis of ancient bones, were found to have consumed predominantly plant-based protein, legumes chief among them, which undercuts the assumption that peak physical strength has always required meat. Red lentils cook in under 20 minutes. Green and brown lentils hold their shape in soups and stews, and a lentil soup simmer with cumin and garlic is comfort food from a Midwestern kitchen table to a diner in New Jersey. If you're building a creatine-supporting diet from scratch, lentils are non-negotiable. Number 5. Pumpkin seeds, the tiny powerhouse with complete creatine support. Here's where this list becomes extraordinary, because pumpkin seeds may be the single most comprehensively equipped plant food for creatine biosynthesis available to us. Every autumn, from Illinois cornfields to New England pumpkin patches, Americans carve millions of pumpkins and throw away the seeds that happen to be one of the most nutritionally complete foods in the plant kingdom. Traditional Mesoamerican cultures ground pumpkin seeds into pastes and press them into oils, prescribing them for kidney support, the very organ where the first step of creatine synthesis occurs, and that traditional use and the modern biochemical mechanism line up almost perfectly. Pumpkin seeds provide arginine in high concentration. They provide glycine, the second amino acid required for creatine synthesis, and they're one of the best plant sources of magnesium, the mineral required for ADP production, which is what creatine ultimately fuels. They also provide zinc, the mineral cofactor for enzymes involved in protein synthesis and muscle repair. A 1-ounce serving provides around 150 milligrams of magnesium, nearly 40% of the recommended daily intake, along with over 8 grams of complete protein. Research published in the Journal of the International Society of Sports Nutrition has confirmed magnesium status is directly correlated with muscle performance, strength output, and recovery speed. In other words, pumpkin seeds don't just supply the raw materials for creatine production. They supply the mineral machinery that makes the entire energy system function, which is rare enough in a single food that nutrition researchers still comment on it. Toast them lightly and add them to salads, soups, and smoothies, or make pumpkin seed butter as a high-performance alternative to peanut butter. If there's one seed to center your creatine-supporting diet around, this is it. Number 6. Black-eyed peas, the southern staple with a hidden performance profile. In the American South, black-eyed peas are tradition, served every New Year's from Texas to the Carolinas for luck and prosperity. But long before they became a holiday ritual, they were brought to the American South via West African foodways, where it already served as a dietary staple prized for sustained energy among farmers and laborers doing demanding physical work in the region's heat. Black-eyed peas provide meaningful arginine and glycine, the same two amino acids your kidneys combine in the very first step of creatine synthesis, along with strong overall protein profile, roughly 13 grams per cooked cup. They're also an excellent source of folate and potassium, the mineral essential for muscle contraction, and the electrolyte balance that governs neuromuscular signaling. Research published in the Journal of Nutrition has linked regular legume consumption, black-eyed peas included, to improve markers of cardiovascular health. And better cardiovascular health means better delivery of oxygen and amino acids to working muscle. Cook them low and slow with onion and herbs the traditional way, or toss them into a quick skillet dish with collard greens the way you find at a Sunday table in Alabama or Mississippi. This is Southern comfort food, doing quiet biochemical work every time it hits your plate. Number 7. Soybeans, the protein king of the plant kingdom. Whole soybeans, cooked whole rather than processed, are one of the most nutritionally complete plant foods ever documented. Soybeans have been cultivated in East Asia for over 5,000 years, classified in traditional Chinese medicine as one of the 5 sacred grains. 1 cup of cooked soybeans provides approximately 29 grams of protein, exceeding many meat sources by weight, including substantial arginine, glycine, and methionine, all 3 of the amino acids required for the full creatine pathway, present together in a single ingredient. The methionine content matters because methionine drives the second step of creatine synthesis, the liver's conversion of guanidinoic acetate into creatine itself. A study published in the Journal of the American College of Nutrition found soy protein produced muscle mass gains equivalent to whey protein over a 12-week resistance training program. Soybeans also provide iron, calcium, and vitamin K2, nutrients supporting the bone density that all muscle performance ultimately depends on. Most of the soybeans grown right here in the United States come out of Iowa and Illinois, and while the vast majority get exported or processed into oil, a whole cooked soybean is a completely different food from what usually leaves those fields. Add them to soups, grain bowls, and stews the way East Asian cultures have for 5,000 years. Number 8. Tempeh. Fermentation unlocks the next level. Tempeh takes soybeans, already nutritionally powerful, and ferments them into something even more bioavailable. Originating in Java, Indonesia, tempeh has fed laborers and farmers as a daily protein staple for centuries, likely predating most modern documentation of its exact history, and historical accounts consistently note the physical endurance of the communities who relied on it. Fermentation reduces phytic acid, the compound that binds minerals and reduces absorption, breaks proteins into shorter peptide chains that absorb more readily, and generates B12, a nutrient almost absent from unfermented plant foods. A 100-gram serving of tempeh provides around 19 grams of protein, along with the same arginine, glycine, and methionine as soybeans, but now more bioavailable, meaning your body actually gets to use more of what you're eating rather than passing it through undigested. Slice it thin and pan-fry it until golden, or crumble into a chili the way you might find at a co-op kitchen in Portland or Asheville. The nutty, dense flavor is unlike anything else in the plant kingdom, and the nutritional return is extraordinary. Number 9. Sesame seeds. Ancient fuel for strength. Sesame is one of the oldest cultivated crops in human history, with evidence of its cultivation extending back to at least 3,500 BCE in the Indus Valley. Ancient Babylonian texts record women consuming sesame mixed with honey to maintain youth and vitality, and Greek and Roman athletes ate sesame cakes before competition for sustained energy. Sesame seeds are particularly rich in arginine, providing roughly 2.6 grams per 100 gram serving, comparable to peanuts and among the highest in the plant kingdom. They also contain methionine at levels notably higher than most other seeds, directly supporting the second stage of creatine synthesis. Beyond amino acids, sesame seeds are extraordinary sources of calcium, zinc, and copper, minerals critical for muscle function, enzymatic activity, and the connective tissue integrity that keeps joints and tendons resilient under repeated physical load. A study published in the Journal of Medicinal Food found that sesame lignans demonstrated significant antioxidant activity, reducing markers of oxidative stress that accumulate after intense physical activity. Toast them and sprinkle them over rice and noodle dishes, or use tahini as a spread and smoothie ingredient, the same way it shows up in Mediterranean and Middle Eastern kitchens that have relied on it for generations. If you're recognizing just how deep this rabbit hole of plant-based performance nutrition actually goes, do me a favor and hit that like button right now. It helps this video reach people genuinely looking for evidence-based answers about food and physical performance. And if you haven't subscribed yet, click subscribe and ring the bell because we cover nutrition and longevity every single week. Now let's keep going. Number 10. Hemp seeds, the complete creatine package. Hemp seeds are one of the most nutritionally remarkable plant foods in existence, and they remain underutilized because of cultural associations that have nothing to do with their nutrition. Hemp cultivation dates back at least 8,000 years, and in traditional Chinese herbalism, hemp seeds were classified as a superior tonic food, one that sustained life, supported the kidneys, and maintained physical vitality across generations of traditional Asian medicine practice, prescribed specifically for weakness and recovery from physical depletion. A 30-gram serving provides approximately 9.5 grams of complete protein in a ratio that closely mirrors the amino acid profile of human muscle tissue itself, including meaningful arginine for creatine synthesis and significant glycine. The most distinctive feature of hemp seeds is their fatty acid profile, providing omega-3 and omega-6 fats in roughly a 3-to-1 ratio, a balance consistently identified in research as ideal for controlling systemic inflammation. Chronic low-grade inflammation is one of the primary accelerators of muscle protein breakdown, and the omega-3s in hemp seeds actively reduce that inflammatory load. A study in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry found hemp protein demonstrated bioavailability comparable to egg white protein, a striking finding for a plant source most people still associate with the wrong plant entirely. Hemp cultivation has also seen a resurgence across states like Colorado and Kentucky since federal restrictions loosened, and food-grade hemp hearts are now stocked in most major grocery chains nationwide. Add 3 tablespoons to your morning smoothie or yogurt. They're soft, mild, and require no preparation at all. Number 11. Chia seeds, small seeds, deep repair. Chia seeds are the performance fuel of the ancient world. Aztec warriors who built and defended one of the most powerful empires in pre-Columbian history consumed chia as a primary sustaining food during military campaigns, and Aztec runners, legendary for their ability to cover vast distances without rest, carried small pouches of chia seeds as their sole provision for journeys of hundreds of miles. The word chia itself derives from the Nahuatl word meaning strength. This wasn't mythology. It was practical nutrition wisdom based on direct observation of what these seeds did to human physical capacity across generations of use. Modern analysis confirms the mechanism. Chia seeds provide a meaningful arginine contribution, and their unique combination of protein, omega-3 fatty acids, and soluble fiber produces a sustained energy release profile unlike almost any other food. The soluble fiber forms a gel in the digestive tract that slows carbohydrate absorption, maintaining stable blood glucose, which supports the metabolic conditions under which creatine-fueled muscle function operates best. Research published in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research found chia seed supplementation reduced inflammation markers and improved recovery time in trained athletes. They also provide calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, and manganese, essentially the full mineral matrix required for physical performance in a single tablespoon. Soak them overnight in plant milk until they form a gel, or stir dried chia into smoothies and oatmeal, the way it's now served in juice bars from San Diego to Miami. The ancient warriors were right. These seeds carry strength. Number 12. Flax seeds, the heart of recovery nutrition. Flax is one of the oldest cultivated plants on record, with archaeological evidence stretching back tens of thousands of years, used by ancient Egyptians who wove into linen and consumed its seeds as medicine. Hippocrates himself, the father of Western medicine, prescribed flax seeds for abdominal inflammation and digestive disorders. Flax seeds are among the richest plant sources of alpha-linolenic acid, the plant omega-3 the body converts into its anti-inflammatory derivatives, and unlike most other omega-3 sources, they also contain lignans, phytoestrogen compounds shown in clinical research to reduce systemic inflammation and protect against oxidative cellular damage. A study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found flax seed supplementation significantly reduced C-reactive protein, the primary blood marker of systemic inflammation, in adults with elevated baseline levels. Reduced inflammation means more effective recovery and a body that responds better to the creatine it produces. Grind flax seeds before eating, since whole seeds pass through largely undigested, and add a tablespoon daily to smoothies, oatmeal, or baked goods. North Dakota alone produces a majority of the flax grown in the United States, quietly supplying a crop most people have no idea is right there in the northern plains. Number 13. Chickpeas, the strength staple of 3 continents. Chickpeas have sustained civilizations for over 10,000 years, feeding the armies of ancient Rome and anchoring the diets of the Mediterranean and Indian subcontinent alike, where chickpea-based dishes remain daily staples for populations with unbroken agricultural traditions stretching back millennia. Today, chickpeas are a growing rotational crop across Montana and North Dakota, feeding a rapidly expanding American hummus market. A single cooked cup provides around 1.3 grams of arginine, along with glycine and manganese, which acts as a cofactor for manganese superoxide dismutase, one of the primary antioxidant enzymes protecting muscle cells from the oxidative damage that accumulates during exercise. The fiber content is extraordinary, roughly 12 grams per cooked cup, feeding the beneficial bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids and reduce systemic inflammation. Research published in the Journal of Nutrition and Metabolism found regular legume consumption independently associated with greater muscle mass in older adults, even after controlling for total protein intake. Roast them for a crunchy snack, blend them into hummus, or toss them into a curry the way they're prepared across the Indian subcontinent, where chickpea-based dishes have been a daily staple for thousands of years. They're affordable, shelf-stable, and delivering creatine-supported nutrition in every serving. Number 14. Black beans, the blood builder. Black beans have been a dietary cornerstone across Mesoamerica and South America for over 7,000 years, forming the center of the plate rather than a side dish for civilizations that depended on sustained physical labor. And today they're a staple across Florida's Cuban and Caribbean communities, served daily alongside rice. Black beans provide arginine, glycine, and one of the highest iron content of any plant food, roughly 3.5 milligrams per cooked cup. Iron is a central atom of hemoglobin, the protein that carries oxygen to working muscle, and physical performance is fundamentally constrained by oxygen delivery. Black beans also provide resistant starch, stabilizing blood glucose without spiking insulin. Research in the Journal of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics found regular bean consumption associated with significantly better waist circumference, blood pressure, and fasting glucose. Black bean soup, black bean tacos, black beans and rice. These combinations have sustained human performance for millennia, and you'll find some versions of the pairing anywhere from a Texan taqueria to a home kitchen in Miami's Little Havana. Number 15. Kidney beans, long-chain energy and structural strength. Kidney beans carry their name from their shape, but they might as well be named for what they support, since the kidneys are where the first step of creatine synthesis occurs. Cultivated in the Americas for over 8,000 years, kidney beans spread globally after contact with Europe and became a staple from Louisiana red beans and rice to Indian rajma, integrated into the culinary traditions of populations with long histories of physical endurance and agricultural labor. Kidney beans provide meaningful arginine and glycine, along with a full spectrum of B vitamins, including B6, which supports the enzymatic conversion steps in creatine synthesis, and molybdenum, a trace mineral that facilitates the breakdown of sulfur-containing amino acids like methionine. The protein, around 15 grams per cooked cup, is complemented by 13 grams of fiber, creating sustained energy release rather than a spike and crash. A study in the Archives of Internal Medicine found regular legume consumption associated with significantly lower rates of cardiovascular disease, with kidney beans specifically linked to reduced LDL cholesterol and improved arterial flexibility. Vascular health is a delivery system for every nutrient we discuss today, including the creatine your body works to synthesize from all of these plants. Number 16. Mung beans, the ancient recovery food. Mung beans may have the deepest documented history as a therapeutic food of any legume on this list, cultivated in South Asia for at least 4,000 years, and appearing extensively in Ayurvedic medical texts as a food prescribed specifically for recovery from illness, from surgery, from physical depletion, and from the general attrition of aging. Mung beans provide arginine, glycine, and notable potassium, essential for muscle contraction and the electrolyte balance governing neuromuscular signaling, along with a lower concentration of the oligosaccharides that make heavier legumes harder to digest. Every muscle contraction your body performs requires a coordinated movement of sodium and potassium across cellular membranes. Sprouting mung beans, which takes just 3 days on a kitchen counter, dramatically increases their vitamin C content, a critical cofactor for the amino acid stabilization steps involved in muscle tissue repair. Research published in the International Journal of Food Sciences and Nutrition found mung bean consumption reduced inflammation markers and improved antioxidant status. Make mung bean dal or sprout them for salads and grain bowls, an easy addition even for the kind of sensitive digestive system that struggles with heavier legumes. Number 17. Quinoa, the complete grain that isn't a grain. Quinoa is technically a seed native to the Andean highlands of South America, and today it's grown commercially in the San Luis Valley of Colorado, one of the few places in the country with a climate suited to it. The Inca called quinoa the mother of all grains and placed it at the center of their empire's agricultural system, and Incan runners used it to fuel a relay system that carried messages across the Andes at altitudes where oxygen is thin and physical demands are severe. This is rare in the plant kingdom. Quinoa is one of the few plant foods containing all 9 essential amino acids in proportion sufficient to qualify as a complete protein, meaning the arginine, glycine, and methionine required for creatine synthesis are all present in a single food, without needing to be paired with anything else. 1 cup of cooked quinoa provides roughly 8 grams of complete protein, along with 118 milligrams of magnesium. Research published in the Journal of the Science of Food and Agriculture found quinoa protein demonstrated higher digestibility than many common cereal proteins and comparable bioavailability to casein protein in animal models, a finding with real implications for anyone building a plant-based creatine production capacity. Use it as the base for grain bowls, mix it with legumes for a complete amino acid and mineral meal, or cook it in vegetable broth for added flavor. Number 18. Buckwheat, the forgotten stamina seed. Buckwheat contains no wheat at all. It's a seed botanically related to rhubarb and sorrel, cultivated in Southeast Asia roughly 6,000 years ago before spreading across Eastern Europe and Russia, where buckwheat kasha was prescribed in folk medicine for endurance, for recovery from illness, and for maintaining strength through physically demanding labor. In Japan, soba noodles made from buckwheat have been consumed for centuries as a food associated with vitality and longevity, a reputation modern research increasingly supports. Buckwheat provides a complete amino acid profile, including meaningful arginine, and is one of the richest plant sources of rutin, a flavonoid that strengthens capillary walls and improves microcirculation, meaning better delivery of nutrient and oxygen to muscle tissue. A study published in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition found buckwheat consumption significantly improved blood flow markers and reduced oxidative stress. Buckwheat also provides D-chroinositol, a compound that improves insulin sensitivity and glucose uptake in muscle cells, directly relevant to the efficiency of the ADP production that creatine supports. Cook buckwheat groats as you would rice, or use soba noodles as a pasta substitute, a swap that's become common in health-focused kitchens from Brooklyn to Boulder. Number 19. Amaranth, the grain of the immortals. This is the food the government once paid farmers to stop growing, and the story behind that is worth knowing. The Aztec did not call amaranth a grain of the immortals by accident. At the height of Aztec civilization, amaranth was as nutritionally and culturally significant as corn, and Hernan Cortez, understanding its importance to physical resilience, ordered amaranth fields destroyed as a tool of conquest. The people preserved it anyway, hiding seeds across generations. Centuries later, mainstream American agriculture treated amaranth as a weed for decades, and farmers in some regions were actively discouraged from letting it grow among cash crops, before nutrition researchers rediscovered it in the 20th century as one of the most complete seeds available. It's now grown commercially across the Great Plains, including parts of Nebraska and Kansas. Amaranth is a complete protein with a particularly high lysine content compared to true grains, and lysine is critical for muscle protein synthesis and calcium absorption. It also provides exceptional concentrations of magnesium, iron, and calcium, minerals that collectively support ADP production, oxygen transport, and the structural integrity of the bone matrix that anchors muscle tissue, the same 3 minerals that keep resurfacing across nearly every food on this list because the body's energy systems depend on them so heavily. A study published in Plant Foods for Human Nutrition found amaranth protein showed high digestibility, with specific peptide fractions demonstrating antioxidant and anti-inflammatory activity, supporting muscle recovery. Cook it as a porridge, Pop it like tiny popcorn as a topping, or mix it with other grains for mineral density in every bowl. Number 20. Spirulina, one of the most protein-dense foods on Earth. We save this for last because spirulina is categorically different from everything else on this list. It's not a plant, not a grain, not a legume, and not a seed. It's a cyanobacterium, a microscopic photosynthetic organism that inhabits freshwater lakes, and it may be the single most nutritionally concentrated food nature has produced in any form on this entire list. The Aztec harvested from the surface of Lake Texcoco, consumed it in dried cakes, and used it to sustain the runners, warriors, and laborers who kept their civilization in motion, while across the ocean, communities around Lake Chad in Africa independently harvested the same organism as a protein staple, enabling physical endurance and survival in resource-scarce environments. Two civilizations on two continents arrived at the same food independently because the results were undeniable. Modern analysis explains why. Spirulina is approximately 60 to 70% protein by dry weight, higher than any meat, legume, or seed on this list, and that protein includes arginine, glycine, and methionine, the complete foundation for creatine synthesis. Spirulina's bioavailability is exceptionally high, estimated at 83 to 85%, meaning your body absorbs and actually uses a greater proportion of what you consume than from almost any other source on this entire list, plant or animal. Beyond protein, spirulina provides phycocyanin, the blue pigment unique to cyanobacteria, which has demonstrated potent antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects in clinical research, specifically inhibiting the inflammatory enzymes that drive muscle damage and delayed recovery. A study published in Medicine and Science in Sports and Exercise found spirulina supplementation significantly increased time to fatigue and reduced exercise-induced oxidative damage in trained subjects. It's also grown commercially today in facilities across California and Hawaii, where the climate suits large-scale cultivation. Add a teaspoon to your morning smoothie, starting small and increasing gradually, since the flavor is strong and distinctive. Here's the framework to take away from today. Because 20 foods is a lot to remember, but the underlying system is actually simple once you see it laid out. Supply the amino acid raw materials for creatine synthesis with arginine from walnuts, pumpkin seeds, and sesame seeds, since without arginine, none of the rest of this matters. Build your protein foundation with complete sources like tofu, hemp seeds, quinoa, amaranth, and spirulina, foods that hand your body all 9 essential amino acids in one sitting rather than forcing you to piece them together across the day. Support the mineral machinery with magnesium and zinc from pumpkin seeds and sesame, and iron from lentils, black beans, and spirulina, because raw materials without the right minerals is like having flour and no oven. Reduce the inflammation that degrades muscle tissue and slows recovery with omega-3s from chia, flax, and hemp. And give your gut the fiber it needs to maintain the low inflammation environment in which all of this creatine-supported repair happens most efficiently, with chickpeas, kidney beans, and mung beans doing that quiet work meal after meal. This is not a supplement protocol. This is a food strategy, one available to anyone at any budget, in any kitchen, from a farmhouse in Vermont to an apartment in Los Angeles to a ranch outside Amarillo, starting today. And it doesn't require a single trip to a specialty supplement aisle to begin. The plants your ancestors ate, whether in the Blue Ridge Mountains, the Andes, the river valleys of West Africa, or the highlands of Peru, weren't nutritionally inferior substitutes for something better, and they never needed a modern marketing budget to prove it. They were doing precise biochemical work that the supplement industry has spent decades convincing us only pills and powders can accomplish. Now you know better, and now you know exactly why. Smash that like button if this video changed the way you think about plant-based performance nutrition, because it genuinely helps this channel reach people who are out there looking for real, evidence-based answers instead of marketing claims. Drop a comment below and tell me which food on this list surprised you most. Are you Team Spirulina, Team Pumpkin Seed, or Team Amaranth? I read every single comment, and I love hearing from this community, because these conversations shape what we cover next. And if you haven't subscribed yet, click that subscribe button and ring the bell, because we post every single week connecting the food wisdom of ancient cultures with a modern science that explains exactly why it worked all along. The most powerful performance nutrition on Earth doesn't come in a tub, and it never did. It comes from the earth itself, from the fields of Iowa and the highlands of Peru and the kitchen gardens of the American South alike. And now you know exactly which plants to reach for.